Hello and welcome to Royal Enfield's spectacular Himalayan Odyssey 2011. The Himalayas are like a grand stage, where the same story plays out year after year. The bit players come and go, but the protagonists remain the same. The awe-inspiring Himalayan mountains. Though they are speechless, they whisper endlessly. They remind you of the scheme of things, just how inconsequential you are. On a motorcycle, the realization hits you hard. And that's when you sit up, let go, and really start enjoying. The Himalayan Odyssey isn't just a journey. It's an awakening. Today is the 4th day of the Odyssey, and we're going to start off here from Kelong and head out to Sarchu in a little while. But like every good story, let's take this from the beginning, which was in New Delhi. Royal Enfield's Himalayan Odyssey can be considered a pilgrimage of the 21st century. It's for those that treat their bullets as a companion and end up taking 2 weeks out of their lives to discover the Himalayas, make new ties, strengthen the bond with their bullets, and take home a few stories worth remembering. More than 60 riders were lined up at the capital's most notable monument, India Gate. With a big roar, Royal Enfield's Himalayan Odyssey 2011 rumbled out onto Delhi streets. The bullet junkies rode out onto the highway towards Chandigarh. Police escorts for most of the route gave the riders a quick, clean exit out of the city. Except for the heat, the ride to Chandigarh was unremarkable. The road doesn't rise and fall, it doesn't meander. It just tracks straight without any surprises right into Chandigarh. It is a day used by the bikes and the riders to get into the groove of things before the action really hots up the next day. And that's where I hopped in for the ride, though I was a bit miffed with the Chandigarh weather. When you think of a ride like this, you think about having fun, but the first day itself is looking kind of dreary because it's raining. It's clouded over, it's rained a lot yesterday, and that means you have to put on all this extra gear, which just kind of makes it uncomfortable and really will slow the ride down. But got a kid up now and we are heading towards Manali today. But before we hit the road, we had a pre-ride briefing to prepare everybody for what was to come.
That doesn't mean you have to ride at 25 and 30. So today the intention is to cover as much distance as possible. We got to do about 350 kilometers. It's quite, there'll be traffic, and if the roads are wet and all, will take a really long time. I'm expecting average speeds of about maybe 25 or 30 kilometers an hour max. In the hills, you'll find rains in a lot of places. So you might be like 2 hours from your destination, then it's nice and sunny, and you stop, and then as soon as you get onto your bike, 2 kilometers ahead, there's rain. Today, try and keep moving. And if you're stopping, stop only when there's rain. If it's dry, just try and keep moving, because that's the time you can cover distance safer.
A light drizzle kept the posse company as we headed out. Finding your way around Chandigarh can be pretty confusing. Everything looks pretty much the same. So we stuck together and rode out onto the highway. Some bikes had to stop for small fixes, but soon everyone was on the highway and praying for clear skies. Getting soaked first thing in the morning is bad news. It means by the end of the day, you look and feel like a raisin. After some time, the drizzle stopped and the roads got dry. That was just the thing to lift our spirits. And then things got a whole load worse. We had been on the road for over an hour and a half. I was already wet, cold and dejected, which means it was time for a cup of chai. Other bikers also had the same idea. With something lining our tummies, we felt ready for another round of proper dhulai. While we had taken our break, the weather certainly didn't want to. If anything, it just got worse and worse. One stretch was flooded. I didn't want to get any water splashed on the bike, so I carefully tread through it. Torrential rainfall kept us company as we hit the first set of twisties. Instead of roaring up the slopes, we were just putting up the hills. It was the perfect example of shock and awe by the rain gods.
First time I came on the Himalayan Odyssey was some 4 years ago, and though we're using the same route and we're driving down the same roads, this feels nothing like it. It's just a completely different experience. I was sweating it out then. I'm doing that even now inside my 4 layers of clothing. But because of the rains and the way the hills are looking right now, it's just completely different. And this fog and whatnot, and we are not even close to Manali as of now. This is just spectacular. Spectacular.
Eventually, that is almost 5 or 6 hours later, we neared our first halt of the day. The rain had eased a bit. The riders got a chance to take a break, dry themselves a bit and get ready for the second half of the ride.
The weather up to Chandigarh was fine, a little dry, but today it's been raining since morning. We haven't encountered a single stretch where there's not been rain.
This is my first time experience riding in rains, and I never thought that I'll get wet, though my definition of getting wet has now changed. No waterproof is working. I had waterproof gloves, waterproof jacket, and even my riding pants were supposed to be waterproof, but nothing's helping. Everything is wet, and it's just dripping.
The one thing you have to learn about waterproof gear is it doesn't work if the water goes inside. So I'm just wondering and worried about how to dry this waterproof till when we get to the highlands in Leh, and hopefully nobody gets frostbite.
172 kilometers to go, so it's going to be a long drive going forward now. I want to leave as soon as possible.
Meanwhile, I was lagging behind with some bike trouble. With my engine dead, I was parked with the bike facing the direction we were coming from. This is to signal to fellow riders that I had a problem and needed help. A few cursory checks had showed that there was nothing I could do without any proper tools.
My bike stopped running, waiting for somebody to come along with tools to take a look and see if it should get going actually. It's not a question of if, it's just what it needs.
The service crew soon turned up with the right set of tools and identified one of the 2 spark plugs as the culprit. Once replaced, I scooted off to catch up with the rest of the crew. As we climbed higher, the view got better. The Sutlej River meandered alongside. We also encountered the worst traffic jam on the planet. Believe it or not, it was as long as maybe 10 trains. Cars had been stuck for ages.
घंटे 40 मिनट
यहाँ पे अटके हैं?
हाँ जी.
But our bikes zipped and wriggled through it all. I even stopped to do some sightseeing. The sight of the water gushing out of Pando Dam was unforgettable.
Can you see the dam behind? It's beautiful. That force of water is incredible, and the reason why I'm shooting this is because there's traffic on the way to Manali, and my cameraman, who's in of course a car, is stuck somewhere on the way.
And then we were back on track. After that, we climbed up into the Beas Valley. I could see the water of the Beas getting colder. There was a light fog right over it.
Awesome!
And we couldn't spend too much time sightseeing because we had to make it to Manali before nightfall. And the real action would start off from Manali the next morning.